It's time you moved to a smaller place, Dad. You don't need all this space. My son Michael stood in my kitchen, his new wife Amanda hovering behind him with that practiced, sympathetic expression she perfected over the last year. I'm Thomas Barrett, 61 years old, and until this moment, I'd been enjoying my Sunday morning coffee in the house I'd built with my own hands 35 years ago. The stairs must be getting difficult, Amanda added softly, reaching to touch my arm. I moved slightly, causing her hand to miss. We're just worried about you. I took another sip of coffee, studying my son's face. The boy I'd raised alone after his mother passed when he was 12 had changed since meeting Amanda. The kind eyes had turned calculating, the genuine smile now held an edge. Or maybe I was just finally seeing what had always been there. The stairs are fine, I said, setting my cup down. I built them myself, remember. Michael sighed dramatically. Dad, be reasonable. This house is too big for one person. Amanda and I could use the space, especially now that we're planning to start a family. Ah, there it was. The real reason for this Sunday morning visit. I'd been waiting for it ever since they'd gotten married 6 months ago. Amanda's eyes lit up at the mention of family, but not with maternal warmth. The gleam was pure acquisition. You've already got that nice condo downtown, I pointed out. The market's hot right now, Michael said, pulling out some papers from his briefcase. We could sell the condo, you could move into something more manageable, and we'd take good care of the house. Keep it in the family. I almost laughed at that last part. Family. The word had meant something different when I'd spent weekends teaching Michael how to frame walls and lay tile. When we'd worked side by side building the deck where he later proposed to Amanda. Before she'd started filling his head with talk of property values and retirement communities. I've actually been thinking about the future, I said, standing to refill my coffee. Would either of you like some? They exchanged glances. Dad, focus please. We've already found some nice retirement communities. The Oaks has an immediate opening, Amanda interjected. We took a tour last week. It's really lovely, a very active community. They've been touring retirement homes behind my back, making plans for my life, my home, without even asking. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, but clarity. The kind that comes when you finally see a truth you've been avoiding. You toured retirement homes for me. We're trying to help, Michael said, that familiar condescending tone creeping in. The same one he'd used when suggesting I was too old to manage my own investments last year. The Oaks has full medical care, activities, everything you need. I nodded slowly. And how much is this helping going to cost me? Amanda jumped in. The monthly fee is reasonable, especially once we sell this place. The market's amazing right now. We could easily get $850,000, maybe more. The house I'd built with my savings, my sweat, my dreams of giving my son a real home after losing his mother. They'd already priced it. The papers are simple, Michael continued, sliding a document across the counter. Just transfer the deed to us, and we'll handle everything. The sale, the move, getting you settled at the Oaks. I picked up the papers, pretending to read them. And you've worked out all the numbers. Michael smiled, relaxing slightly. Of course. We can sell this place, pay for your care at the Oaks, maybe even have enough left over for a nice vacation fund for you. How generous of them to let me have pocket money from the sale of my own home. I set the papers down and walked to my office, returning with a folder of my own. Before we discuss this further, you might want to check something. Michael frowned. What's that? The current deed to the house. I have a copy right here, he said, pulling another paper from his briefcase. That's the old one, I said quietly. You'll want to see the new one, from 3 months ago. Something in my tone made Amanda step closer, peering at the folder in my hands. I opened it slowly, removed the document on top, and placed it on the counter. Michael snatched it up, his eyes scanning quickly, then stopping, then starting again from the top. This can't be right. What is it? Amanda demanded, grabbing the paper from his hands. Her face went pale as she read. 3 months ago, I said, taking another sip of coffee, I transferred ownership of this house to the Barrett Family Trust. The trust document specifies that the house cannot be sold while I'm alive and must be used after my death as transitional housing for families who've lost a parent. Michael's face had gone from confident to confused to angry in the span of 30 seconds. You can't do that. I already did. The trust is irrevocable. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't transfer the house to you now. Amanda's hands were shaking. But we had plans. Yes, I said. You did. Plans for my home, my life, my future. All without asking me. Just like you planned tours of retirement homes without asking. Just like you planned to sell my house without asking. Dad, this is ridiculous. Michael sputtered. We were trying to help. No, son. You were trying to take something that didn't belong to you. Something I built for others who might need it someday, the way we needed it after your mother died. The mention of his mother seemed to hit him like a physical blow. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the boy I'd raised, the one who understood what this house really meant. The trust is managed by Wilson and Associates, I continued. They'll ensure it serves its intended purpose long after I'm gone. Helping families who've lost someone, giving them time to grieve and rebuild, just like we did. Amanda's sympathy had vanished entirely. You're making a huge mistake, she snapped. Michael is your son. Your only child. You owe him. I owed him a home when he needed one, I interrupted quietly. I owed him love, guidance, and the knowledge of how to build something meaningful. I don't owe him property he plans to sell before I'm even dead. Michael's face had turned an interesting shade of red. You've never liked Amanda. That's what this is about. I shook my head. This isn't about Amanda. It's about you. About what you've become. About the fact that you saw your inheritance as something to cash in rather than something to preserve. We'll fight this, he threatened. Get lawyers involved. You're welcome to try. But the trust was properly established. All paperwork filed correctly. I may be old enough for you to want to put me in a home, but I'm still competent enough to make legal decisions about my property. Amanda grabbed her purse. We're leaving. Come on, Michael. But Michael stood frozen, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Not really. Not for a long time. The house will still help families, I said softly. Just not the way you planned. Someday, you might understand why this matters. Don't count on it, Amanda snapped, pulling at Michael's arm. Let's go. They left without another word, the screen door slamming behind them. I waited until their car pulled away before walking out onto the deck Michael and I had built together. The wood was weathered now, needing another coat of sealant. I'd get to it next weekend, just like I'd get to fixing the loose gutter and trimming the oak tree's branches away from the roof. This house had sheltered us when we needed it most. Now it would shelter others. The thought brought a peace I hadn't expected. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Hope you're happy alone in that big house. I looked out at the yard where he'd learned to ride a bike, the garden his mother had planted, the workshop where I'd taught him to use tools. I wasn't alone. I had everything that mattered. I typed back. I am. The fallout from my decision rippled through the family like aftershocks from an earthquake. By Monday morning, my sister Kate had called, her voice tight with concern. Thomas, Michael is absolutely livid. He says you've lost your mind, setting up some kind of charitable trust. I was in my workshop, repairing a rocking chair for my neighbor's grandchild. The rhythm of sanding wood had always helped me think clearly. "Did he tell you about their plans for me?" I asked, running my hand along the smooth grain. "Well, yes," Kate admitted. "The retirement community does sound nice. They toured it without telling me, Kate. Made plans to sell my house without asking me. Does that sound right to you?" The silence stretched between us. Kate had been there after Sarah died, had watched me build this house while raising Michael, had understood what it meant to us. "No," she finally said. "It doesn't. But Thomas, a trust. Cutting Michael out completely." "I haven't cut him out of anything. I've ensured the house serves a purpose, the same purpose it served us when we needed it." Later that afternoon, Amanda's father called. Richard Pierce was a real estate developer who'd made his fortune buying up family properties and turning them into luxury condos. The kind of man who saw every building as a potential profit center. "Barrett," he said, skipping any greeting, "this little stunt of yours is causing my daughter considerable distress." I continued working on the rocking chair. "Is that so?" "Let's cut to the chase. How much?" "Excuse me." "To dissolve the trust." "Name your price." "Everyone has one." I set down my sandpaper. "Mr. Pierce, this isn't about money." "Everything's about money," he scoffed. "You're not fooling anyone with this charitable nonsense." "What is it?" "You want to punish Michael? Get back at Amanda? Fine, make your point, but let's be reasonable here." "I am being reasonable. The house will help people who need it." "People who need," he sputtered. "Do you have any idea what that property could be worth with proper development? We could put up a dozen luxury townhouses, triple your investment." And there it was, the real reason for Amanda's interest in my too-big house. Her father had probably been eyeing my 3-acre lot since she first started dating Michael. "The property isn't for sale, Mr. Pierce. Not now, not ever." "You're making a mistake, Barrett. A very expensive mistake. Goodbye, Mr. Pierce." I hung up and returned to my work, but my hands weren't as steady as before. Not from fear, but from a deep sadness at understanding just how far Michael had fallen under their influence. The next week brought more revelations. My neighbor Frank stopped by, awkwardly clutching a beer. "Thought you should know," he said, settling into a deck chair. "Michael and that wife of his were here last month while you were visiting Kate. Had some people with them. Looked like surveyors." My hands gripped the railing. "They were in my yard." Frank nodded. "Said you'd asked them to get some measurements for landscaping. Didn't seem right to me, but they've been planning this for months. Measuring my property, touring retirement homes, probably already drawing up development plans with Richard Pierce. Thanks for telling me, Frank. You okay? Need anything?" I managed a smile. "I'm fine. Just learning some hard truths about family." That evening, I sat in my living room looking through old photo albums. Michael's first day of school, standing proudly in front of the house. His high school graduation, both of us grinning by the oak tree. The day he got his contractor's license, following in my footsteps, or so I thought. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "You're breaking Michael's heart. Hope you can live with that." I looked at the last photo of an album. Sarah and me, standing on the empty lot that would become our home, her pregnant with Michael. Both of us full of dreams for our family's future. "I can live with protecting what matters," I typed back, then blocked her number. The next morning brought a certified letter from Pierce and Associates, demanding I prove mental competency for establishing the trust. It went straight to Wilson and Associates, who handled my legal affairs. Janet Wilson called within the hour. "They're fishing, Thomas. The trust is solid. But you should know they're likely to escalate." Meaning? "They might petition for guardianship, claim you're unable to manage your affairs. It won't work. You're clearly competent, but it could get messy. I thought about Michael measuring my property while I was away, planning to sell my home out from under me. Let them try, I said. 3 days later, I received an unexpected visitor. Amanda's mother, Elizabeth Pierce, stood on my porch looking uncomfortable. "May I come in?" she asked quietly. "I think we need to talk." I hesitated, then stepped aside. Elizabeth had always seemed different from her husband and daughter. More genuine somehow. "Coffee?" "Please." We sat at my kitchen counter, the same spot where Michael had tried to convince me to sign away my home. "I want to apologize," Elizabeth said, surprising me. "For all of this, for what they tried to do." "They?" She smiled sadly. "Richard, Amanda, and yes, Michael, though I think he's more lost than malicious." I poured coffee into 2 mugs I'd made in my workshop years ago. "What do you mean?" "Richard has been influencing him since he and Amanda started dating. Talking about real estate opportunities, development potential, family dynasties. Michael wanted so badly to impress him. By selling his father's home." Elizabeth wrapped her hands around the mug. "By proving he could be ruthless enough for the Pierce family. Richard considers sentiment a weakness. Amanda learned that lesson early." The pieces clicked into place. Michael's gradual change, his growing obsession with property values, his dismissal of anything that couldn't be measured in dollars. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I watched Richard do the same thing to my family home after my parents died. Tore it down, built condos. Said he was building our future, but he was really destroying our past." She took a shaky breath. "I've regretted my silence ever since." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "What you did, protecting this place, it's right. Michael may not see it now, but someday he might. When the Pierce influence wears off, if it ever does." After she left, I walked through my house, touching the walls I'd built, the floors I'd laid, the memories embedded in every corner. I couldn't save Michael from his choices, but I could save this place that had saved us once. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael, the first in 2 weeks. "Mom would be ashamed of you." I looked at Sarah's picture on the wall, her kind eyes seeming to see right through me. "No," I whispered. "She'd understand exactly what I'm doing. The trust would ensure this house remained what we'd always meant it to be, a sanctuary for families who needed one. Not a profit center, not a development opportunity, but a home." Michael had forgotten that. But I never would. 3 months after establishing the trust, I received the first indication that Michael and the Pierces weren't finished trying to break my resolve. It came in the form of a young woman in a crisp business suit, standing on my porch with a clipboard. "Mr. Barrett? I'm from Adult Protective Services. We've received a concerning report about your living conditions." I looked past her to see Amanda's BMW parked down the street, barely visible behind a row of trees. So this was their new approach. "Would you like to come in?" I asked calmly. I'd just made fresh coffee. The social worker, Jessica Martinez, according to her ID, seemed surprised by my composure. She followed me into the immaculate kitchen, her eyes scanning everything with professional attention. "Your son has expressed concern about your ability to maintain the property," she said, accepting a cup of coffee. "And about some recent financial decisions." "You mean the trust I established to help families in need?" She nodded, making notes. "He suggests these decisions might indicate cognitive decline." I smiled, opening a folder I kept ready for exactly this kind of situation. "I have recent medical records from my physician, cognitive assessments from my financial advisor, and documentation from my attorney regarding my competency when establishing the trust. Would you like copies?" Jessica blinked, clearly not expecting such preparation. "That would be helpful." I also have security footage of my son and his wife conducting unauthorized surveys of my property while I was away, if you're interested in seeing who might really need evaluation. After reviewing my documentation, Jessica's professional demeanor softened slightly. Mr. Barrett, I have to ask, why were you so prepared for this visit? Because I know my son and his in-laws. They want my property for development. When they couldn't convince me to sell, they tried legal challenges. When those failed, this was the obvious next step. She made a few more notes. The house is clearly well maintained. Your documentation is thorough. I'll be noting this report as unfounded. As she stood to leave, she paused. Off the record, Mr. Barrett, I wish more people thought about using their property to help others. My mother struggled to find housing after my father passed. After she left, I watched Amanda's car speed away, no doubt rushing to report her failed scheme to Michael and Richard Pierce. My phone buzzed minutes later. Michael. Using social services to harass me now. I texted back. Your mother would definitely be ashamed of that. No response. The next attack came through the Homeowners Association of all places. I'd helped establish it years ago, keeping the rules simple and reasonable. But suddenly, I was receiving violation notices for everything from grass height to paint colors. Frank caught the HOA inspector photographing my house one morning. Funny thing, he told me later. Guys wearing a Pierce Development polo shirt. Coincidence? I documented every inspection, every frivolous complaint, adding them to my growing file. Janet Wilson was keeping her own records, building a case for harassment if needed. But the real blow came from an unexpected direction. I was working in my garden when Kate arrived, looking troubled. Thomas, we need to talk about Mom and Dad's farmhouse. Our parents' old place, sitting empty since Mom passed 5 years ago. Kate and I had been maintaining it, unable to decide its fate. Michael approached me, she continued. Offered to buy my half. Said he's worried about your mental state, wants to protect the family property. And I told him I needed time to think. She sat heavily on the garden bench. He's working with Richard Pierce, isn't he? They want to develop it. Most likely. I won't sell, she said firmly. But Thomas, this has to stop. This war with Michael, it's tearing the family apart. I pulled off my gardening gloves. I'm not the one at war, Kate. I'm just protecting what matters. By turning your son against you. By preventing him from destroying something meaningful for profit. I gestured around us. This house saved us after Sarah died. The farm saved Mom after Dad passed. Some places deserve to be preserved, not developed. Kate was quiet for a long moment. I missed the Michael who understood that. Me too. That evening, I received an email from Wilson and Associates. Richard Pierce had applied for permits to develop the land adjacent to mine. A small wooded lot I tried to buy years ago. The plans showed a 5-story apartment complex that would loom over my property, blocking sunlight from Sarah's garden. They were trying to devalue my home, make it less suitable for the trust's purposes. I had to admire the strategy, even as it broke my heart that Michael was part of it. I called Janet Wilson. Options. We can challenge the zoning variance they'll need, she said. And I've been documenting the pattern of harassment. We might have grounds for legal action. Against my own son. Against Pierce Development. Michael's just a pawn in their game, Thomas. But was he? Or had he become exactly who he wanted to be? The answer came the next day. I was in my workshop when Michael appeared in the doorway, looking oddly like his teenage self for a moment. Dad, can we talk? I set down my tools. Depends. Are we talking, or are you here to serve more papers? He flinched. I deserve that. But please, just listen. I gestured to the workbench where I'd taught him to build his first birdhouse. He sat, running his fingers over the worn wood. Richard Pierce offered me a partnership, he said quietly. Full access to their development portfolio, backing for my own projects. Everything I've wanted. In exchange for getting you to dissolve the trust, or finding ways to make it impractical to maintain. Like the apartment complex next door, the HOA harassment, Adult Protective Services. He had the grace to look ashamed. I told myself it was business, that I was building something bigger than just one house. And now? Now I can't sleep, can't look at old photos, can't drive past here without remembering building that deck with you, or Mom's garden, or... He stopped, voice catching. The house did its job, I said softly. It gave us a home when we needed one. Now it can do that for others. I know. He stood abruptly. I can't be part of what they're planning anymore. But Dad, I can't stop them either. Richard Pierce doesn't give up when he wants something. Neither do I. Michael nodded, moving toward the door. I'm sorry. For everything. I forgot who I was for a while. And now? Now I need to figure that out again, without the Pierce's influence. After he left, I sat in my workshop for a long time, surrounded by the tools and memories of a lifetime of building things meant to last. Michael had taken the first step back toward being the son I'd raised. But Richard Pierce was still coming for my home, and now he'd have something to prove. The war wasn't over. It was just entering a new phase. The final showdown with Richard Pierce came exactly 1 year after I'd established a trust. I was reviewing applications with Janet Wilson for the first family to be helped by the house. A young widow with 2 children who'd lost her husband in a construction accident, when Frank called. Pierce Development Trucks at the empty lot, he reported. Looks like they're starting construction. But Thomas, they're crossing onto your property line. I was in my truck before he finished speaking. Janet already calling the police on her cell phone. When I arrived, Richard Pierce stood watching as bulldozers cleared trees along my property boundary, clearly encroaching several feet over the line. Oops, he said when he saw me. Surveyor must have made a mistake. Like the mistake of starting construction without final zoning approval. Janet asked, joining me with her phone recording everything. Pierce's smile faltered slightly. Just preliminary clearing. Perfectly legal. Not on my client's property, it isn't, Janet replied. And not without environmental impact studies for a lot this size. The police arrived, followed by city code enforcement. Work halted as property lines were verified, permits checked, violations documented. Pierce's casual mistake had just given us the leverage we needed. This ends now. I told him quietly while the officials worked. You're not getting my property. Not through Michael, not through legal harassment, and definitely not through construction accidents. You're a fool, Barrett, he spat. That house could have made your family rich. Instead, you're giving it away to strangers. I'm giving it purpose, something you wouldn't understand. The next week, Janet filed our harassment lawsuit. With Michael's testimony about Pierce's systematic attempts to devalue and acquire my property, combined with a construction violation, we had a solid case. Pierce's investors grew nervous. His reputation took a hit. 2 months later, his lawyer called with a settlement offer. They drop all actions against my property, sell the adjacent lot to the trust at a fair price, and issue a public apology. In exchange, we drop the lawsuit. Take it. Michael advised when I called him. He'd moved back to his old apartment and filed for divorce from Amanda. Dad, take the win. I did. The trust now had additional land for expansion, protected from future development. The first family moved into the house while I relocated to the comfortable in-law apartment I'd added over my workshop. Close enough to maintain the property, far enough to give them privacy. Watching children play in Sarah's garden again, hearing laughter echo through the halls we built, I knew we protected something precious. Not just a house, but the idea that some things are worth more than money. Michael stopped by on moving day, helping the young widow unpack while her kids explored the yard. "Mom would love this," he said, watching the children discover the tire swing he'd played on as a boy. "She helped build it," I reminded him. "Everything that matters here." "I forgot that for a while," he admitted. "Got lost in Pierce's world of profit margins and property values. Found your way back, though." He nodded, hefting another box. "Thanks for not giving up on me. Or the house." Later that evening, I sat on my workshop deck, watching the sunset paint the old house in familiar golden light. My phone buzzed with a message from the young widow. "Thank you for giving us a home while we rebuild. Your wife's garden is beautiful." I looked at Sarah's picture on my workshop wall. "We did good," I told her. "The house is still saving people." Michael joined me, 2 beers in hand. We didn't talk much, just watched darkness settle over the property we fought to protect. Sometimes the biggest victories come not from winning battles, but from remembering what's worth fighting for in the first place. The house would stand, the trust would grow, and families would find shelter here long after I was gone. Some legacies aren't measured in dollars, but in the lives they touch and the hope they preserve. Sarah would definitely understand that.